everyone, welcome to episode 2 of What's in the Bag. I'm Emma.
I'm Mike, and this is my tournament bag that I take to events.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about measuring devices.
Yes.
So, let's see exactly what I take to tournaments when it comes to measuring on the table.
What's in the bag?
So the first one that I'm going to show is a supporter of ours in America called Hammerhead Games. This is my 9-inch tactical template.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool template. You've got a 2-inch coherency on one side, 3 inches on the long side, 6 inches, 9 inches, and a weird kind of shape here that I've never quite
Worked
used.
out what that's for.
This is a great one if you have anything that's coming in from Deep Strike or Reserve, because a lot of the Games Workshop produces are this 9-inch distance. It makes it really clear and easy. If you can slide this between two models, they're more than 9 inches apart. As soon as it hits bases on either end, you know you're too close. So this is one of my default deployment measures. It's really handy. It also gives you that 2-inch coherency, which lets you check the 2 within 2 rule for Warhammer 40,000 these days. And the 3-inch one's actually been quite useful for some of the engagement ranges and that sort of thing. The second, and very similar tool to this one, is the OBSEC TAC template. It's a little bit transparent there on screen. 2 inches, 1 inch, 4 inches, 6 inches. We've also, for those of you who don't play Warhammer 40,000 and maybe play a game that requires it, ours also has a handy dandy 45-degree targeting reticle that you can see just there, so that you can measure out your 22 degrees on either side of the vertical. So this is really, really handy for sort of standard range movement. You're not having to muck about with tape measures and that sort of thing. Most units move about 6 inches on the battlefield, so it's quite easy to then maneuver your models around on the table relatively quickly. Again, you've still got your 2-inch coherency. Your 4-inch range was, when we've designed this, was actually around coherency for vehicles, but I still find the 4 inches quite useful for shorter distances or for advancing when you don't roll that 5 or 6. So you do still have quite a mid-range measure that you can hold comfortably and use on the table.
Now with these, if you are using something like this, really recommend that you do actually check and make sure that your inch measures
Yes.
are correct. Because the last thing you want to do is, put them on the table and go, I've been playing this for the last however long.
Half an inch too long or half an inch too short.
It does make a difference.
Obviously, the shorter version isn't a problem, but the long one certainly could be.
It's always nice that just go.
They do match.
They are the same, aren't they? But yeah, they do actually match. So that's pretty awesome.
If any of you have used any of the measuring rods that came with any of the older editions of Warhammer 40,000, they were commonly red plastic sticks. They were actually short.
Yeah.
They were about 17.5 inches, and then were basically marked using centimetres, but then just converted to inches, so they ended up short.
Yeah.
The next thing I've got is a tape measure. Fairly standard tape measure. This one's just come from a hardware store. Obviously, you can buy the branded ones. This is one that stays out as you pull it, and you obviously press the button to release it. There is the reverse version of that.
Yes.
Where you have to push the button in
to hold it.
to release it.
No, to hold it.
Yes.
To lock it, yeah.
I prefer this way, just because...
Yeah. Now, something that you will notice is there's no dangly tag.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did when I cut it off.
Yeah. So Mike cuts them off all of the tape measures that he uses, basically because when he is measuring, it's not likely to catch on a model and then potentially
I've seen that a lot.
Move things.
And I learned that the hard way myself, is that any of the wrist straps that they come with will often, as you're moving them across models, we have dynamically posed models with swords in the air or shields or guns. It's really easy to catch antenna and snap them and that sort of thing. The last thing I have is my final solution backup, which is my OBSEC keyring tape measure. So this, a lot of the time, will stay either attached inside to one of the hooks in the bag or on my car keys. And it's a much shorter tape measure. This one, I think, only goes to 2 feet. So it's not going to be useful for you to shoot 60 inches across the table. I find the majority of the time the 24 is enough to get me through movement phases and short-range firefights and that sort of thing. For Age of Sigmar it'd work, because I don't believe there's many artillery that go past about 18 inches. As a fallback, stopback solution, if this breaks during the day, I've at least got a backup that's light. It's easy to keep on you, whether it's with your keys or inside the bag. And, it's not an expensive tool either.
So a couple of things to check when you are buying a tape measure. Make sure that it does actually have inches.
Yes, particularly in countries that don't still use imperial measurements regularly. A lot of countries these days have moved on to metric, and it's quite possible to buy a tape measure that does not include centimeters and inches on it. You can just buy them with just centimeters.
Yeah. And also, so we basically say that any tape measure is fine.
Yep.
Don't bring a clothing alteration tape
No,
measure.
those loose tape measures are an absolute nightmare, and you're guaranteed to catch something on the table.
That's actually not why.
Really?
They stretch.
Do they really?
Yeah.
There you go.
So if you're using those, what you don't want is to measure out, this is 6 inches. Well, it used to be 6 inches, but now you're actually at 8.
Yeah.
So, and that can work for you. It can also really work against you if you're checking the 2-inch coherency and things like that. So, so just really using something that doesn't have that ability to be able to stretch.
Yeah.
Definitely something to think about.
A lot of the new box sets, also for Warhammer 40,000, come with a plastic measure very similar to these.
Mm-hmm.
They're transparent. They are 12-inch measures normally. I've seen players, because they do want a 9-inch deep strike, take a pair of scissors or a scalpel and chop off those 3 extra inches, so you've got the 1 to 9 marked out clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way of getting a 9-inch measure if you're on a budget and you've bought one of the new box sets.
Mm-hmm.
I find the versatility of something like this from Hammerhead Games a bit more... It's rigid, it doesn't bend, you don't have any risk of it getting snagged on things, it's solid.
Yeah.
Those thinner ones that are a little bit flexible, you have the risk of putting creases in and doing damage. So I definitely would prefer a Perspex, like hard plastic style.
Or Perspex, or even the MDF
Yep,
ones.
there's MDF ones are completely useful as well.
Yeah.
But when you start using these sorts of things to speed up your gameplay for movement and deep strike, you won't go back. Because as soon as you start measuring out and having to, use your thumb to kind of mark off where the edge of the base is, it's far easier to put that down up against the base of a model and literally just move it so the front edge matches.
Yep.
It's a way faster way of moving. So I thoroughly recommend, whether it's ours or from another company's, go and get yourself a tactical template of some kind. They work really well on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all the measuring tools that I bring to a tournament. It's not uncommon for me to have 2 of these in my bag. I did for the tournament I've just played at.
Yeah.
And it's much like dice. Having a spare one as a backup is always useful.
Having a spare one for a backup is always useful, but you know what else is useful? Packing one.
Yes.
Because I would say I cannot think of an event that we've run that somebody hasn't come up to me and gone, do you have a tape measure?
Yeah.
So, we do. We often carry... we used to take a big TO box that
and my tournament bag often comes with us as well.
We used to take a big TO box that had a whole heap of extras in it, and we don't take that big TO box anymore because everything's kind of electronic. So we don't take as much stuff. So when ours have been loaned out, then we're putting a call out going, who's got an extra tape measure?
Yeah.
And we're really fortunate that people are generally organised, and a lot of people do have 2 in their bag. But yeah, definitely, at the very least, pack one of these.
The amount of times I've seen someone, though, with these, pull this out, measure with it, and then do this, and have that piece hit the base of the tape and then go flying because it's damaged, it's always why I bring 2. So it's much safer to be able to continue the tournament, go, I broke it, I'll pull the next one out. Over the years, again, Games Workshop has produced a number. There was a skull-shaped one back in
we've got one of those somewhere.
4th or 5th edition. I actually found it recently.
Yeah.
I didn't ever like using it because it's the way the mechanism works is really prone to breaking. This is a really big chunky one, but it's also a lot more durable. The mechanism seems to, like I've had this one a couple of years now without any problems. Some of the smaller, lighter weight ones are more prone to breaking. Mm-hmm. So I would suggest, if you're going to spend $2 on it, spend $4 on it and get a slightly better one.
I don't know how much tape measures are anymore.
But I know you can buy them super cheap.
Yeah. I used to work for a discount hardware store, and so I've got quite a lot of tape measures. But I do remember a long time ago being in a Games Workshop store and seeing a mum come in who was looking for something to buy for her son for birthday or Christmas, and she was looking at a tape measure and just saying, you know what, a tape measure. You don't need to... At that particular time, she was looking at a tape measure that was $50. And this was a long time ago. You don't need to spend $50 on a tape measure. A $2 tape measure will do. So just the things to think about, with this one, the fact that it doesn't pull back in again
straight away
is definitely something to think about and definitely something to look at. And then just put your finger on it and put it back in.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually take... because I'm so used to putting my finger on to pull it out. It's definitely worth getting something that... And even in my quite small hands, that's not overly
it's not
cumbersome.
enormous. So
there we go. That's what's in the bag for dice. No, it's not dice. That's what's in the bag for measuring tapes.
If you want to find out anything else, whether it's to get hold of our Objective Secured TAC template or find out more about Hammerhead Games, there'll be links in the show notes for this episode.
I feel like we should maybe start adding to these show notes like a birthday and Christmas wish list that potentially people can
Maybe that'll be a
pass
future
on to
episode.
their loved ones. So, fab. All right. See you for the next episode.